just to revise you, what we were discussing relevant to SLFR is 13 fair value measurement. So when time to time when you practicing, maybe as accountants, maybe as financial statement preparers or auditors, time to time this fair value measurement is important when you are conducting, when you are trying to record different items, maybe assets and mainly liabilities. When you are going to record them into the financial statements, you need to report the best way of recording the financial, recording the assets and the liabilities in the financial statements is the recording them as per the fair value, recording their fair value. So therefore, in different incidents, for example, when you are practicing PPE treatments, so you need these fair values. When you are doing practicing loan amortization, this fair value is practicing. So time to time, you need to measure fair values of different assets and liabilities when you are practicing. So then we were discussing about the definition, that is basically the fair value will represent a price, right? A price that would be received to sell an asset or paid to transfer liability in an orderly transaction, right? So we were discussing about what the orderly transaction. In an orderly transaction, there could not be any force for a particular party to decide the value of the transaction, right? No one can pressurize on people when calculating the fair value, right? So then these are the things that we discuss about the exclusion of SLFRS 13. So it mainly for the assets coming under share-based payments and the leasing transactions, which they are having different separate accounting standards for the treatment of those such value measurements. So we are not going to use SLFRS 13. So then examples when initial recognition, when you are practicing consolidated financial statements, when you are calculating fair value, we discuss when we valuing the net assets of the company acquirer, the net assets, we are going to consider the fair value of net assets in calculating the goodwill of the company, right? I think you will have practiced this during the discussion of business terminations under SLFRS, right? So then relevant to the different standards, you are going to measure basically like PPE, investment assets. You are going to practice this fair value measurement, right? So then we have done some sample questions. So then moving towards, so conditions of asset of the liability, location, restriction, these things we discussed. So I would like I want to highlight this exam tip that is very important to memorize. Whatever the time, whatever the incident where you are trying to measure the fair value, right? Think in terms of how much the third party would charge to take over an obligation or pay to acquire an asset. Mainly, this provides a kind of a simple understanding of measuring fair value. If it is an asset, you have to consider when you are selling this asset, what is the value someone is going to be paid, right? What is the value that you are going to charge in selling that asset? If it is obligation, right? If it is obligation, it is other way around. How much a third party would charge to take over an obligation or pay to acquire. For example, if you are going to sell a vehicle, right? Sell a vehicle, when you are measuring the fair value of that vehicle, so you have to think when a third party is purchasing this vehicle, what is the amount he is going to be paid, right? Going to pay you, right? So that value is basically fair. But in calculating fair value, there are two things. There are transaction cost as well as transportation cost, right? When you are calculating fair value. So among these two, what what we are going to consider for fair value calculation. So when we identify, let's say we identify the price of price of asset, and we are trying to identify the fair value. So you are given transaction cost as well as transportation cost. Which cost that you are going to deduct from the selling price? Transaction or transportation cost? Yes. Transportation, yeah. Transaction cost that we are not going to consider. But in some situations we are going to consider transaction cost also. Tell me an example of incident where we should use transaction cost also. Can you remember in the SLFRS 13 we were talking about these active markets, principal markets, and most advantageous markets. Right? There are three things. Basically, when you are calculating the fair values, always you have to refer to what market. Always you have to refer to what market? Active market, principal market, or most advantageous. What do you think? Were you there last week? No. So those who have not there in the classroom may be a little bit confused. But anyway, you have to see the recording, then you will get in touch. Anyway, so when you are measuring, basically when you are measuring as per the standard, when we are measuring fair value of asset or liability, you have to consider the principal market. Principal market means the market where the transaction, the market where the transaction volume is the highest. Right? Transaction volume is the highest. So we have discussed it by using some case studies. In the case study note, there are some transactions. There are some markets that we are going to consider as principal market. So active market is the market where transaction for asset or liability occur frequently with higher number of transactions. But when it comes to principal markets, among these active markets, the highest, the market where these transactions are the highest is we consider as the principal. So if both markets are absent, if you can't identify principal market or active market, right? So if you can't identify principal market, some active markets are there, but you can't identify principal market. For example, transaction volume of all the markets are same. In that type of situation, you can't think of a principal market. So then you have to look at the most advantageous market. Most advantageous market, when you are calculating the most advantageous market, all the related costs that you need to consider. Right? All the related costs that you need to consider. If there are some people who are absent last week, I would like to show you that example we have practiced last week from the case study booklet. So considering this one, you can see a case study. Case study 7. You are provided with two markets, right? Can you read this question? An asset is sold in two different active markets at different prices. An entity enters into transaction in both markets and can access the price in those markets for the assets at the measurement date as follows, right? Sales volume of market 1 is 10,000 units per year, where market 2 is 5,000 units. Can we see? So you are provided with two markets, right? So now you have to decide in terms of calculating the fair value of this one, right? Fair value of this one, right? What is this asset? Fair value of this asset. You are given two markets, market 1 and market 2. Do you think both of these markets are active markets? Do you think both of these markets are active markets? Yes or no? Yes. Is it active market? Both of these markets are active markets. Why? Because the transactions are happening frequently. Because it says In the market 1, China 10,000 units per year. Where market 2, 5,000 units. May market take 10,000 transaction, May market take 5,000, Frequently transactions are taken place. Active market. What would be the principal market? When there are active markets, the market that has the highest volume of transaction is the principal market. So then 10,000, 5,000 is there. Which one is the principal market? Market 1 or market 2? It is market 2. Market 1, right? Market 1 is 10,000, market 2 is 5,000. Then you have to consider market 1 in calculating the fair value of this asset. How to calculate? You are getting the price minus what cost? Transaction cost or transport cost. You have to consider only the transport cost, right? Only the transport cost. We are not considering transaction cost, right? When calculating it, you can get then 20,000 minus 2,000. So then fair value will be 18,000. Clear? 18,000. In calculating there, we didn't consider this transaction cost. Then what is the active market and principal market? Those both are active markets. Principal market is market 1. Then second one, what is the fair value of the asset if market 1 is the principal market for the asset? Market 1 is the principal market for the asset. It is obvious. It is not required to give market 1 as the principal market. Why the reason? Yes. Why we should not require to give market 1 as the principal market? Because it is obvious. By looking at the transaction volume, you can decide it. Here it is 5,000, here it is 10,000. Highest volume is market 1. Therefore, it is not required to provide in the question market 1 as the principal market. Can you understand? So then what you have to do in your examination also, in the practical context also, when you are deciding the market, see what market is performing higher, performing many transactions. Right? Considering 1 and 2, 1 is the market where many transactions were taken place. So therefore, this is principal. So then you have to take values from principal market in measuring fair value. Fair value ko hoyanna ganna one තොරතුරු මොකෙන්ද ගන්න ඕනේ market 1 එකේ. Right? ඔයා මේ fair value එක measure කරන්න තොරතුරු ගන්නේ මොන market එකෙන්ද කියලා තමයි අපි තීරණය කරන්නේ. මොන market එකෙන්ද basically as per the standard it says you should take the information from principal market. So then principal market, how to identify principal market? So that is the market. First you have to identify active. Active market means what are the available market? This asset is exchanged. Asset is sold. මොන වගේ market වලද මේ asset එක තියෙන්නේ? එකක් තියෙනවා market එක. China අනිත් එක තියෙනවා India. Right? China වල වෙනකොට අවුරුද්දකට කීයක් වෙනවලු 10,000ක් වෙනවලු. India වල වෙනකොට අවුරුද්දකට කීයක් වෙනවලු 5,000ක් වෙනවා. එහෙනම් which one is the principal market? The market where many transactions are taken place, which is market 1. So therefore, market 1 is the principal market for the asset. So then you have to calculate the fair value of the asset. Then you take, then considering the market 1, what information you are going to consider? What information that is matter. That matters. You can't take transaction related the information. You are only taking transport cost and the price of the asset. So then the value will be 20,000 minus 2,000. It is 18,000. Understood? 18,000. But look at the B. No principal market can be determined where sales in two markets are equal. Now see, for example, let's say can be possible, right? Let's say market 1 and market 2 both are having 5,000 transactions. Here also 5,000, here also 5,000. Now can you determine the principal market? You can't determine the principal market because the number of transactions is equal. Both are active markets, but no principal market. So then what is the option available? What is the option available provided by the SLFR study? To go for the most advantageous market. In calculating the most advantageous market, you have to consider all the related questions. So then accordingly, what will be the value of here? 2,000 minus 20,000 minus 2,000 minus 1,000 also you need to consider. So it is 17,000. Here also 23,000, minus 500 minus 1000, it is 21,500. You have, when you are calculating, when you are determining most advantageous market, there is no restriction of considering the relevant cost, even though there are restrictions when you are calculating fair value. Fair value calculation, you are going to you are not going to consider transaction cost, but when you are calculating the most advantageous market, you are going to consider all the related costs. Here, based on that, now by looking at this example, which one is the most advantageous market? What is the most advantageous market? Yes.
Market 2 is the most advantage market.
Market 1 equal the market 2 equal the most advantage. 1 or 2. Because you are getting high value. You are getting high value. Market 1 is the, sorry, market 2 is the most advantageous market. You can get 21,500 by selling the asset. Right? Accordingly, you have to do the calculation. Understood? So then when you are calculating it, right, when you are calculating, you have to consider all the related costs in calculating most advantageous market. Right, okay. Then we are moving to the remaining part of the lesson. I will close the case study and directly go to the back to the right here. So then consideration for deciding the level of inputs taken from active market. So then now we are going to, I told you that when you are calculating fair value, you are going to consider some information which are coming from active markets. Now some information, different variations are there relevant to the available information, right? So like nature of data, nature of the price, nature of the asset, nature of the market, right? So when it comes to the nature of the data, there may be observable data, there may be unobservable data. What is mean by observable and unobservable? The data is not readily available. You can't observe the data from the market, right? Sometimes data cannot be observed in the market. We discuss what are those examples. And also observable and unobservable. The second one is nature of the price. Maybe quoted price or not quoted. What are the examples where the quoted prices are available? Listed prices are available. Share market. Yes, in the share market, listed prices are available. The transaction taken place in the share market, these prices are available. Sometimes there are no quoted prices. Clearly, you can identify. Right. So if let's say there is a product, the price is not marked in practically account color. Then it is hard to identify the price of that point. Right? If the price is not marked in the product, not only shares, that type of things also coming under things not listed. So nature of the asset, identical or similar. Right? There are some identical assets. As well as there are some similar. There is a difference, identical and similar. Right? Maybe the purpose may be similar that you are using, but not identical. Right? Maybe based on the brand, based on different features of the product, that not be identical but similar. For example, there is a laptop here and there is a laptop here. Both laptops are, is it identical? Is these two laptops are identical? Or not identical? But how about the asset? Similarity. There is a somewhat similarity, right? Because with the purpose, when you are considering the purpose, it gives similar uses. Right? Nature of the market, active wall is active. Again, the transactions are taken place or not. Right? So based on that, right? Based on that, we can divide this level of inputs that we are going to consider for fair value measurement into three: level 1, level 2, and level 3. Level 1, level 2, and 3. What is mean by inputs? Input means the data that you are going to consider for fair value. So, කලින් අපි කතා කරපු example එකේ දීලා තියෙන මිල right transaction cost එක. ඊට පස්සේ transaction transportation cost එක. ඕවා කොහොම input? Those are we call input, right? Basically the value you are providing, you are getting to know attributes, right? So then accordingly you can see level 1, level 2, level 3 are there, but I want to highlight you higher the level you are going to consider in measuring fair value. Higher the level you are going to consider in measuring fair value, higher the disclosures in financial statement. Higher the level you are going to consider, higher the disclosure. Because can you see, when it comes to level 3, it is unobservable. Nature of the price is not there. Nature of the asset is not there. Nature of the market is not there. So this is more towards the own judgment of the valuer, isn't it? Right? This will lead more judgment of the valuer. Maybe chartered accountant, maybe a valuer, certified valuer, that to practicing the valuation process. It is basically based on his own judgment. So therefore, no one will, the people who are referring the financial statement may not believe the way they calculate the fair value. Therefore, more disclosures required when you are going for level 3 fair value identification. So therefore, most of the time, when we practice in the valuations, right, fair value measurements, it's all of them are trying to go for the level 1 fair value measurements, because the disclosures are otherwise. As the disclosures, you have to disclose many things: the basis, the judgments you have made, the criteria you have considered, any policies you have considered in measuring. Yeah, understood. So therefore, remember, based on the level that you are going to consider, your disclosures in the financial statements are going to be changed, right? So then level 1 is if the data is observable, right? The price is quoted, asset is identical, nature of the market is active market. So then all are identified under level 1, right? So previous example, level 1, level 2, or level 3. Previous example, nature of the data, observable. අපි දැන් transaction cost එකේ මම මේ කියන්නේ කලින් case study okay. Transaction cost period ඒවා ඔක්කොම දීලා තියෙනවා. Observable ගන්න observable හින්දානේ අපි දන්නේ මේ market එකේ මෙච්චර transaction අවුත් එක වෙනවා. ගන්න නැත්නම් හංගලා කරනවා හොරෙන් කරනවා. It is non observable. Unobservable. So it is observable. Nature of the price quoted කරනවා. Price එක දීලා තියෙනවා. Price එක මෙච්චරයි කියලා පැහැදිලිව කියලා තියෙනවා. Nature of the asset, identical, right? Maybe the item asset we assume that it is identical. Nature of the market, it is active. Obvious, we have to go for level 1. So very low disclose, very low level of disclosures. But when it comes to level 2, you can see three things. Maybe observable data quoted, which one is changing? Similar asset, identical. Active market, less active. If the market is less active, your given market is less active market, right? Less active market, you have to go for level 2 identification of fair value, right? So likewise, you have to think in what base you are going to consider in measuring fair value, whether it is level 1, level 2, or level 3. To understand that, there is a case study, right? So I will move you towards the the case study booklet. In the case study booklet, please go through case study 8. Case study 8. XYZ Holdings previously owns a commercial office building in Colombo and must measure its fair value at year end. Now, what is this? Asset or liability? It is an asset or liability. This is an asset. It's a building. Building in Colombo must measure its fair value at year end. The company gathers the following market data. The recent sale price of building in the same location sold for 500 million, and this transaction was publicly disclosed as the conditions and size of the building is exactly same since both are in the same housing scheme. Right? Transaction was publicly disclosed as the condition and size of the building is exactly same since both are in the same housing. Can you see whether it is identical or similar? Is it identical or similar? What do you think? Size of the building is exactly same since both are in same housing. Housing scheme එකකින් අපි ගත්තොත් එහෙම housing scheme එකකින් ගෙවල් කරතොත් එකම setting එකදී එන්නේ එකම දැන මේ පැත්තේ කුසිය උඩ කාමරේ උඩ ගෙදරක් සමාන වෙලා කොහොමයි 100% නෙමෙයි identical. It says it is identical. So this is a similar asset or identical. It is a identical asset. Those are the information. That's how you can see. Market data on office building. This is a one building, right? This is a one thing. One thing. The other one is market data on office building prices range from 450 million to 480 million. And there are slightly smaller size and older conditions. That building internal valued by XYZ experts for an estimated value of 520 million based on further rental income projections, discounted cash flow, and making assumptions about future demand. Right? Making assumptions about future demand. So what you have to do, identify the nature of data, prices and methods. Decide the level of input of the above case. Which price level will you consider for measuring fair value in this asset and what? Can you try it out? I think the table is available, right? Shall I share the table again? I can't remember whether this table is. This is given, right? In the exam material, this is given. You draw the table again. The levels table. So then with the think it is unobservable data, observable data, then if it is observable, why you are saying write down in the same table. Try to do that only. I will summarize. Now, first of all, what you have to do, you have to identify the inputs of this transaction. What are the inputs? In the given case, what are the inputs? There are three inputs. One is 500 million. One input, right? In the table, you mention as input 500 million is one input. Second one is we don't know the level, right? First column you identify as the input. Finally, we will decide what is the level. Finally, we will decide what is the level. So then 500 million. So then the second input is 450 to 480. That is the second input. The third one is 520. 520 million. So there are three inputs in there. Now you have to decide what is the level of this input. How to decide the level of input? You have to see the nature, whether it is identical or not, observable or unobservable. Likewise, you have to decide. What are those natures? One is write down this nature of data, nature of the price. Price is okay. All the prices are given here. Quoted price is given. Quoted price is given. So nature of the asset and nature of the market. These in this case, according to this case, when you are determining what are the significant factors, I don't say that price should be neglected. Right? That should be considered. But when it comes to available data, nature of the data, nature of the asset, and nature of the market is important. Whether it is active or inactive market, is it identical or similar asset? One is observable or unobservable. Right? That you need to consider in measuring this. Right. When it comes to the recent sales price of building in the same location sold for 500 million, and this transaction was publicly disclosed as the conditions, and this transaction was publicly disclosed as the condition and size of the building is exactly same since both are in the same housing scheme. What you can say? Whether this input is identical? Yes, identical. Right now, the input is identical. Then the other one, what is the other criteria? Observable or unobservable? This data is observable. Data is observable. Observable, identical is there. Ne? Observable, I mean that can be. Then what can be? Is that can be a? Is it can be a level 3 one? So now level 3 you have to leave. Level 3 can the back. Level 1 no 2. Now you have to see whether it is active market or less active market. What do you think? And this transaction was publicly disclosed as the condition and size of the building is exactly same. Both are in the same housing scheme. Right? About the market details, is it provided or not? What do you think? No, it is not provided. It is unclear. Write down about the market details. Something. Write down something about the market details relevant to the market. Here, in this case, since it is not given data, it is not given data. Is provided relevant to the is provided to the relevant is provided relevant to this market, whether it is active or not, whether it is active or not. It will be considered as it will be considered as it will be considered as identical, observable, inputs, identical, observable inputs available in identical, observable inputs available in less active market. Less active market. Less active. Therefore, level is level 1, 2, 3. Level is level 2. Therefore, level is level 2. And input level 2. There is market data office building prices range from 450, 480. There are slightly smaller size and older condition. That building in valued by XYZ expert for an estimated value of 520. That is a different thing. Second one, market data official building price range from 450 to 480 million, and there are slightly smaller size and older condition. How about the nature of the price? It needs adjustment, right? It needs adjustment because there are slightly changes due to the size and older condition, right? Right and older condition, right? Therefore, that adjustment is needed to be there. Write down relevant to that one. This is relevant to 450 and 480 million people. Observable data. Observable data. Similar assets. Observable data, similar asset. Why we are saying similar? Size එකයි older condition වෙනස්, right? Observable data, similar assets. And adjustments are required to the price. Adjustments are required to the price. ඇයි මෙතන දීලා තියෙන price එකත් range එකක් නේ. fixed price කියන්න පුළුවන්ද මේ? නෑ නේ මේතර මේ අතර vary වෙනවා කියලා තියෙනවා. 4.50 4.80 අතර vary වෙනවා. Right. So then again it is coming under level. Therefore, it is coming under level 2. Right. Final one. Are you clear? 30, 520 minutes. 520 minutes. 520. What is the level? Online participants, type me what level this final input is, 550 million value. Tell me what is the level of this 520 million. Yes. Any answers? What do you think? Online participants, can you all tell me an answer?
Level 3.
If you are, yes. Type it, please. Level 3 or 2. Just type the number and chat typing. Isn't it possible? I don't know. Okay, chat eකට access නැද්ද? Okay, this is coming under level physical participants, yes. Sentence. Huh? 2. 3. 3. No level. The level is net. We have level. Yes, level is level 3. By the reason, it says 550 million based on future rental income projections, discounted cash flows model, and making assumptions about future demand. Fully done by internal person, based on future rental values. There is no observable data, right? This is fully internal, right? No, and this person has not observed any other data, right? There is no listed price. This is based on internal projection. Therefore, coming under unobservable data. Unobservable data. Because why it says unobservable? Let's assume you want to know that values. Can you go and ask from the company what are the future cash flows of this building? No. But this case publicly available. It's not published. මේක එහෙම තියෙනවා නෑ අපිට future cash flow එයා හදපු net value ගත්ත හැටි එයා කරපු assumption අපි දන්නවා. No, it is unobservable. So therefore level 3. 520 input is level 3. Right, now tell me, is this 3 assets or same asset? That also you need to understand. Is this relevant to 3 assets or 1 asset? Huh? 3 assets or 1 asset? In this case. It is relevant to 1 asset. Understand this one. For 3 assets, you are the accountant. You wanted to measure the fair value of the building. You are measuring data. Someone has provided based on sales information 500. Someone has given 450 to 480. Someone has given your internal given as 500. Which one you are going to consider? That is your QQ as the count. Then you follow the SLI part is 30. But SLI part is 30. Yes. When this level of inputs are decided, you are given the data from level 1, level 2, level 3. Here in this case, level 2, level 3. But you have to consider. Previously, I said higher level, higher level. This process, we have to go for the lowest level that you can, lowest level. Level 2, right? Level 2 classification. Under the level 2 classification, which one you can go? 100, 450, 480 range is there. You have to do some adjustment, but 500 million is there. Which one you have to go? Better to go with 500 million. Better to go with 500 million. It is supported data coming under level 2. I am level 2 කියලා දැන් 500 million එක ඔයාගත්තා කියලා 4.70යි කියලා. එතකොට මොකද කියන්නේ? ඔයා 4.70 හදපු විදිහත් මොකද කරන්න ඕන? ඩිස්ක්ලෝස් කරන්න ඕනද නැද්ද? You have to do how you adjusted this. How you adjusted this range into 470 based on size and order to disclose. Right? So other than that, if publicly available data is there, 500 million, right, publicly disclosed value, then you can directly say, I have taken 500 based on the publicly disclosed information. Publicly disclosed information. So therefore, you have to take 500 million as the fair value. Clear? Is it clear for you how to determine the level? Right? Level ටික බලලා අඩුම level එකේ තියෙන්න ගන්න. අඩුම level එක කියන්නේ not the value but the level. The lowest level you can for fair value identification. ඔකට අපි කියනවා hierarchy of inputs. Right? Hierarchy of inputs කියනවා level 3. Level 1, level 2, level 3. Hierarchy of inputs. If we draw this right hierarchy, determining hierarchy what? Determining this we call hierarchy of inputs. Hierarchy. What are the hierarchy? Hierarchy. Network means hierarchy. Level 2 kan level 1 level 1 kurang udah lagi level 1 udah level 2 level 3 ya podi kaya level 1 ඊගාව එක level 2 ඊගාව එක level 3 Ayo beri pakai kan? Ayo dengan level kan? Hah? Baik. Unobservable not unobservable. මේ කොටුවේ මේ කෑල්ලේ size එකෙන් ඉන්ක්‍රීස් කරන්න ඕනවද? මේ area එකෙන් depict කරන්න. Disclosure විතරයි. වැඩිම area එකේ වැඩිම disclosure කරන්න. second අඩුයි. 1 අඩුම කෑල්ල. අඩුම area එක තියෙන 1 එක උඩට තියෙන නිසා ඒකෙන් මොනවද? depict කරන්න. Lowest disclosure. Lowest disclosure. Right. So that's why it is called hierarchy of in hierarchy. Okay, final one. From this one, we can finish the lesson. Can you read the case 9? Can you read the case study 9? And try to identify the pair. ABC has purchased 100% of the publicity of its price and it's trying to determine the fair value of the net asset at the acquisition date. XYZ owns land that is currently developed for industrial use. The fair value of the land used in industrial operation is rupees 4 million. Many nearby plots of land have been developed for residential use as high-rise apartment buildings. The land owned by XYZ does not have planning permission for residential use. Although permission has been granted for similar plots of the land. The fair value of XYZ land as a vacant site for residential development is 5 million. However, transformation cost of 0.2 million and 0.1 million transaction cost would need to be incurred to get the land into this condition. How should the fair value of the land be determined? What are the inputs available? First, you have to decide what are the inputs available. What are the inputs available? the fair value of the land is used in industrial operation is 4 million. One is 4 million. It's a, but it's the fair value if it is used for what? If it is used for industrial purpose, right? Industrial purpose. Many nearby plots of land have been developed for residential. ළඟ තියෙන ඉඩම් කැලේ මොකද කරලා තියෙන්නේ? Residential use වලට කරවලා. As high-rise apartment building, the land owned by XYZ does not have planning permission for residential use. මේ brand එකට planning permission එක නැහැ resident. කොහෙන්ද ගන්න ඕනේ planning permission? Right? You have to take the planning permissions when you are building most of the times when you are building a building in a land where in a city limit, you have to take relevant permissions, right? So here it says permissions are not received for this plot, but similar assets, similar plots have been received, right? Although permission has been granted for similar plots of land, the fair value of XYZ land as a vacant site for residential development, it is 5 million. Residential development එකට ගත්තා නම් ඒක වෙන්නේ කීයද? 5 million. Then, however, transformation cost of 0.2 million and 0.1 million transaction cost would need to be incurred to get the land listed. You know, transformation. Then obvious fair value එකට ගන්න කොයි එකද transformation cost එකද transaction cost එකද? Transformation cost. You don't need to consider transaction cost. First time you have to remove that. But the thing is, there are two things about the approval. Now you should be then if you are not going to consider this one, so let's say transaction cost we didn't consider, then what will be the fair value? 500 minus 0.2. 0.2. So that the fair value will be M value. හරි මම තාම කිව්වේ නැහැ කොයි එකද ගන්න කියලා. එහෙනම් මොකද්ද value එක? 4.8. right? 4.8 million නේ. 4.8 million. එහෙනම් ඊගාවට මොකද? 4 million. 4 million, 4.8 million. Those are the two values you are going to consider. Which value you are going to consider? 4.8 to 4. 4.8 million to 4. Which value you are going to consider? Approval limit basically. Very done. So I will read this. This is not the standard, right? In many cases, it is perceived that the current use of an asset is its highest and best use. Its highest and best use. Unless there are factors that would suggest otherwise. SLFRS 13 says a use can be legally permissible. Legally permissible, even if it is not legally even if it is not legally write down this. In many cases, it is perceived that current use of an asset. Current use of an asset. Is its highest and best value. is its highest and best use. Sorry, highest and best use. Underline the term highest and best use. Unless there are factors that would suggest otherwise. That would suggest otherwise. According to SLFR is 13. According to SLFR is 13. It says use can be legally permissible. Use can be legally permissible. Can be legally permissible. Even if it is not. Even if it is not legally approved. Underline the word legally approved. This rule is applicable. This rule is applicable for the fair value determination, no? For the fair value determination. Non-financial assets. Non-financial assets. Non-financial assets example. Are there? Non-financial assets are there. For example. Non-financial assets. Property, plant and equipment and intangible assets. Property, plant and equipment and intangible assets. එහෙනම් මේක fair value එක කියන්නේ කීයද? එහෙනම් මේකට මේක best use එක මොකක්ද? Best use එක මොකක්ද? Residential use. Permission එක ගැන මොකද කියන්නේ? වටේට හම්බෙලා තිනවා අපිට හම්බෙලා නැහැ. හැබැයි ස්ටෑන්ඩඩ් එක මොකද කියන්නේ? Legally permissible නම් approval එක නැති වුණත් අපිට ගන්න පුළුවන්. Therefore fair value will be 5 million minus 0.2 million. The answer is 4.8. Right, okay. With that, you can close the fair value discussion. Right, fair value calculation discussion. There is a part about the finance, the grants, grant for grants. Right, this is the part we discussed finally. Right, you can read it. Highest and best value case study 9, physically possible. Make a picture right. You can fill your material. Non-financial asset include property, plant and equipment and intangible assets. The fair value of a non-financial asset is based upon highest and best use of the asset that would maximize its value. So highest and best use case study 9 already we did it. In the case of non-financial asset, fair value is determined based on highest and best use of the asset from the perspective of market participant. The highest and best use should be physically possible, legally permissible, financially feasible. What is mean by legally permissible? Legally permissible and legally approved are two things. Permissible means in the example case study 9, you can see here the similar plots have obtained the permission, approval, but our plot have not received. Right? Approved and permissible is there. Permissible means පස්සේ කාලෙක හරි approval එක දාලා ගන්න පුළුවන් කියන්නේ. Legal approval එක ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක තමයි legally permissible and financially feasible. In many cases, it is presumed that also given as the final part that you wrote down. In many cases, it is presumed that the current use of the asset is its highest and best use unless there are factors that could suggest otherwise. SLFR 13 says use can be legally permissible even if it is not legally. So this you can see in IFRS 13 paragraph 27 can refer this. Okay, with that we can wind up the SLFRS 30 of the session, right? SLFRS 30. Right. Okay, with that we can move to the new SLFR standard. It is LKS 41, agriculture, some biological assets. And you are getting a 8-mark question, 8 or 10-mark question from where? Right? So I will be trying. So therefore, do the practice questions and 10-mark questions are coming from their value. All the parts that I am discussing, including the assignment, you will be getting 40. Right? You will be getting 40 rupees. Right. Yeah, also I have uploaded a case study as well as go and come. Go for a 10. How many minutes? 20. It's not the lunch break. 15-minute break you can take and come. Come by 10, 5, 8. So after the break, we will be directly going to this LKS 41, LKS 41, and we will be completing this, and this also you are getting 10 marks for your exam. Okay. Have a break and come. Okay. We will continue the session after the morning break. So then we are moving to a new standard. It is LKA is 41. LKA is 41. So accounting for agriculture, right? Agriculture. We call this coming under agriculture. We have biological assets, right? And agriculture and biological assets, right? So here we are going to discuss about the recognition criteria, measurement and disclosure relevant to biological assets, agricultural produce with application of Sri Lanka plantation and dairy and agribusiness sector. So I want to tell you this standard is kind of a standard that you are going to use based on which company you are working, which company you are working as accountant or which company you are auditing, right? So because when it comes to normal businesses, majority of the businesses are not having this biological assets or agricultural produce at their own businesses. Maybe it's a farm, right? Maybe a dairy farm, right? Or else any company that produce agricultural products are the businesses that we are going to use this standard in considering the accounting treatment. So if you are working in a regular company which is located in Colombo, right? And there will be agricultural or biological, you are the only people who they can speak of, considering as biological assets based on the work that they are doing, right? So then, but the thing is, this is very specific standard which is coming under Sri Lanka accounting standards that we identify the treatments for biological assets and agricultural items. So then moving towards, but this is a very interesting standard. So then these are the learning objectives. You can go through these learning objectives, explaining the scope, key terms. So when it comes to this biological asset, the agriculture standard in case 41, there are very important key terms. What are the key terms? One is this biological asset. Then the agricultural produce, biological transformation, harvest. Likewise, different definitions are there that you differentiate. For example, if you take, let's say, grapes wine, right? Grapes wine, Midivella. So if you are producing in your business, you are having, assume that you are having a grapes wine which has grapes, right? So until the moment you harvest the grapes, the grapes are available in the vines, right? That will be considered as biological asset. But as soon as you harvest them, this will be converted to the, at the time you harvest the grapes, that will be converted to harvest. So then that harvest only we identify as biological asset at the time we harvest. Thereafter, that part, that asset, that harvest, we will be transferred into the inventory, LKS2. Right? Material area LKS 41. Atom government LKS 41. Stock ticket government LKS 5. Right? So then, if you produce anything by using them, let's say wine, two wines are. Wine is the value, then till that you produce wine, right? Produce this wine beverage. So then it is become an agricultural produce. Agricultural produce. Likewise, different things are there. Then we call bare assets. There is another concept coming under, which is not mentioned here, I think. It is coming as bare assets. If the bare asset is live, that we are going to consider under living being. Live means අජීවී ඇවිදින යන්න කතා කරන කෑ ගහන යම් දෙයක් නම් that we consider as live where asset. Live where assets we are going to consider as biological asset, but assets that are not live, we are considered that we will not consider as where biological. For example, let's say there is a mango tree. There is a mango tree. The mango tree is planted to get what? Get mangoes, right? Get mangoes, right? So then its basic purpose is to get mango, right? We can't sell the mango tree as itself, right? So then we consider them as bare asset. So we'll explain one by one when we come to this each concept. So therefore it is, first of all, in the same way we did for SFRS 13, here in LK 41 also we are focusing on some concepts, identifying key terms that we are going to use in the standards time based on the terms that you are using, based on the scenarios, the treatments are going to be changed in a very interesting way. We'll see how it is changing. So then apply recognition criteria. So there is one main recognition criteria, right? In identifying the fair value of biological asset. So that is the fair value of the asset minus cost to sell. That is the main criteria that we are going to use when assessing, when valuing biological asset. Fair value of the asset minus cost to sell. So that is one main thing that you need to consider. We will consider when measuring, right? Measuring at fair value less cost to sell. So next one you can see, apply the fair value model and know when cost is used instead, right? So then account for government grants. So when according to this one, sometimes as soon as these crops are harvested, so this is converted to the LKS2 in identifying those values. So we are going to consider a cost called deemed cost, right? Deemed cost in identifying the value of the harvest agricultural products. So then account for government grants. So there is a part covering under government grants at case 20 also. There is a link between this agriculture standard and the government grant. Sometimes government is providing grants for promoting agriculture. A country like Sri Lanka, you know, and Sri Lanka is an agricultural based country, right? So most of the majority of the land can be used for agricultural purposes. So therefore, different government based on their policies, thinking of promoting agricultural products in Sri Lanka. So therefore, time to time they are providing grants. How these accounting treatments are there, it's a small area, but we'll not focus that much anyway. That also there. So then finally the disclosures of LKS 41. What are the disclosures of the financial statements we have to make in relation to LKS 41 accounting treatment. So then, can you read the slide? So agriculture is central to Sri Lankan economy, right? Tea, rubber, coconut, dairy and other plantation companies dominate a large share of CSE listed manufacturing groups. So then if you are planning to work in a plantation company, tea factory, rubber factory, coconut processing factory, right? Likewise, dairy company. So you are going to use this standard, right? You are going to use this standard. There are some companies listed in CSE also, right? CSE also. So LKS 41 governs how these entities measure and record the living assets, tea bushels, cattle, standing crops at the heart of their business, right? Tea, rubber, coconut, dairy, grain, livestock, like. If you are planning to join as accountant for poultry firm, so this is the standard that we are going to use. If you are working in a tea factory, plantation company, much important standard to learn when you are practicing accounting. Right, scope of the standard, right? There are some inclusions, so let me open the right one. I have opened the student version. Right, scope of the standard covers, you can see some items we are not going to consider as a LKS 41, right? Rather than thinking of what are the things that we are going to consider, it's better to understand in what situation we are not going to apply this LKS 41, right? You can see in the red colors, what are those one? Number one, land related to agricultural activity. You know, when we are doing practicing agricultural activities, most of the time land is involved, right? When we are growing some plants, so land is there. So then again, when we are, let's say we are having a poultry farm, right? So there is a land that this exact location is, this business is located, right? Anyway, that land will not come under case 41. Land will come under what? Land will come under PPE, right? LKS 60, right? LKS 60, no investment property, LKS 40, based on its purpose of use, right? Purpose of use. So then bearer plants. So I will explain what bearer plants are, LKS 60, but produce growing on them stays in LKS 41. Example, I will tell you an example for this bearer plant. Bearer plant is a plant that cannot be, let's say, take an mango tree. I will explain, give you the exact definition, but I will give you here the example. Take a mango tree. Can you sell mango trees? If you are a business, you are producing mangoes, right? Can you sell mango trees? You are not selling mango trees. You are already selling what? You are selling mangoes, which is from mango tree, right? So this mango tree will become harvest, right? Why? After harvesting the mango tree, we can't even consider mango tree as a biological, We call it bearer asset, an asset that cannot sell itself, right? Cannot sell itself, right? So that we consider, I mean, specific definition as per the standard I will explain this. But for that moment, for this moment, understand bearer plant is there is a production of it. Agricultural produce is there, right? But the plant itself cannot be so. Plant itself cannot be so. But there is some examples. There is some examples. How about rubber tree? What is the produce of the rubber tree? Rubber tree? Rubber milk. Rubber milk is the produce. Right? After getting the rubber produce, so then can we sell rubber tree to someone? Basically, I mean, no, but is that the purpose of growing a rubber tree to sell the for woods? Purpose is to produce rubber tree, rubber milk, rubber milk. So therefore, rubber milk will be considered as harvest, right? As soon as at the time they harvest, it will be considered as benefit. But as soon after producing the harvest, so that will be considered the stock. It will be considered as the LKS too, right? So bearer plants we are not going to consider. Then that mango tree is a PPE. That rubber tree is a PPE, right? LKS 6, right? But produce growing on them stays in LKS 4. ඒකේ හැදෙන දේවල් තියෙන්නේ මේක ඇතුලේ තියෙනවා හැබැයි ගහ තියෙන්නේ අඹ ගහ තියෙන අඹ ගහේ ගෙඩි තියෙනවා ගෙඩි එනවා LKS 41 එකට ගහ යනවා මොකටද LKS 16 වලට understood right intangible asset related to agricultural activity intangible assets we have a separate standard it is LKS 38. So this is coming under LKS 38, not LKS 41. So then agricultural produce after the point of harvest. Agricultural produce after the point of harvest. Agricultural produce means the outcomes of the agricultural products. So the agricultural what we call plants, right? Plants. For example, what are the examples of agricultural produce? If it is a cow, what are the agricultural produce? Milk is the agricultural produce. But can we consider cow as a biological asset? Can we consider cow as a biological asset? Yes or no? Yes. Why? It's not a plant. They are a plant. Medan plant කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? They are a plant එකක් විතරක් ගන්න. හැබැයි අඹ ගහ. ගහේ අඹ තියෙද්දි අඹ ගහ LKS 41 නුනට when you are harvesting milk from a cow will be considered as a biological asset because it is not a plant. It is not a plant, right? Okay. So then these are the exclusions. So we will discuss. Don't worry if you didn't understood much about what we are going to discuss. But at this point, I am trying to give you kind of overall understanding, overall approach for the lesson, right? So then accordingly, we are going to consider this thing. Biological assets, living animals or plants, except they are so therefore I will mention except they are plants. So then agricultural produce at the point of harvest, only at the point of harvest we consider the LKS 41. Government grants related to a biological asset measured at fair value less cost to sell, right? Government grants are provided. So then there is a key idea is there. What is the key idea? The harvested produce is measured under LKS 41 only up to the moment of harvest. Once harvested, it becomes inventory and LKS takes over. LKS 2 takes over, right? Right? The milk will be the harvest. So then using them, let's say you store them, right? You store them, then you are not going to consider that milk under LKS 40. It's LKS 2. So, right? Have you ever visited a dairy factory? Yes, dairy factory. Yes. Yeah, they have this huge tank that they store. Now you are going to as they inform me, they are going to work. So in the Guardians dairy factory, right? So then this Nipuni is organizing inside. Nipuni is organizing field business, right? So then you can see this biological asset there, right? You can see this biological asset there. You stand that there is no dairy, but this these items milk that we are not going to consider as a biological asset, it will be treated under LKS 2, right? So this is somewhat understanding about the scope of the asset, right? Scope of the asset. Yeah, unmuted, right? I think you filled the blanks, right? Some blanks are available in your lecture material. Please fill them, right? Very important. Key definitions: agricultural activity. Agricultural activity. The management by an entity of the biological transformation and harvest of biological asset for sale or for conversion into agricultural produce or into additional biological asset. Right? Conversion into additional biological asset. What the definition first? The management by an entity of a biological transformation and harvest of biological asset for sale. For sale or for conversion into agricultural produce or into additional biological asset. Like biological asset for sale මොනවද biological assets කියන්නේ? Example, biological assets for sale. Chicken. Okay. Now, chicken as soon as harvested, it will become more tasty. Harvested can become after you kill it. With the animal, it is become harvested. Then you consider as a taste. How about aquarium? Aquarium is that you breed different fishes and you sell it. Right, but you breed it. Yeah. Human aquariums are buying aquariums. I'm not talking about buying insect, you are like breed. So then it is coming under additional biological. Right? The farming of making of house. Then you produce more cows. Right? Then they become cows, then they become the animals that give cows at a particular time. Right? So therefore these are coming under those all we consider as agricultural activity. Right? Conversion into agricultural produce or into additional biological. Conversion into agricultural produce. Example. Previous example we took about grapes. We grow grapes, right? We harvest grapes, then we produce wines from grapes. So then it is a conversion into agricultural produce. And then you have a factory, like you have a factory that you have cows there, you produce dairy products, cheese, butter, those products. Conversion into agricultural produce. Agricultural produce. Right? Anyway, agricultural produce will not be considered as a case for you. Agricultural produce in the but these are considered agricultural. Those are right. So then the biological assets for sale, right? You can sell them, even cows, even hens, you can sell, right? These are examples, right? Biological asset, a living animal or plant. Biological asset can be an animal or plant. Tea bush, a dairy cow, a shrimp. What is shrimp? Shrimp is shrimp. Shrimp in a pond, a standing prop of paddy, right? Standing prop of paddy. Standing prop of paddy. Standing prop කියන්නේ ආවස් කරන්න තලි, right? A shrimp in a pond කියලා දෙන්නේ මම shrimp විතරක්ම දාන්න කිව්වා. Shrimp විතරක් තිබ්බොත් ඒක LKS biological asset එකක්. pond එකේ ඉන්න පීන පීන ඉන්න ඉස්ස තමයි මොකද? biological asset එක වෙන්නේ. Right? So tea bush, තේ හැදෙන පළතුරු, right? තේ කොළ කැඩුවෙන් පස්සේ ඉන්නේ. Right? Dairy cow, right? Dairy cow. Agricultural produce. මෙතන දින agricultural produce කියන්නේ. The harvested product of the entity is biological asset. Example, pig tea leaf, latex, raw milk, harvested pellet. Right? After harvesting the product, then it is becoming agricultural produce. As soon as you harvest them, you will be considered under biological asset, but thereafter you will be considered as normal stock, trading stock, LKS2. Right? There are something to be filled in your lecture material. Can fill this up. I think examples. I think. Right. So there are some other definitions also. Biological transformation. Biological transformation. The process of growth degeneration, production, and procreation that cause qualitative or quantitative changes in the biological. ඒ කියන්නේ සමහර ලාවට grow වෙන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් tree එකක් නම් mango tree එකක් නම් mango tree will be growing. Coconut tree will be growing in the time. Right? So then reproduction, then if it is a camel, if it is a cow, the camel can be the new units will be produced. Right? New animals will be produced. Right? Again, pet out here, rules are coming under biological transformation. The pet out in that, they are becoming useful asset for this, right? With the time. Then harvest. The detachment of produce from a biological asset or the cessation of biological assets, like for example, plucking tea leaf, wrapping latex, making a cow, right? This is what we call harvest process of getting the agricultural produce, right? Bearer plant is very important. See, bearer plant. Bearer plant will not be actually under agricultural asset, biological asset. Right? Bearer plant is a living plant that is used to grow, produce over more than one period, and has a remote likelihood of being sold as agricultural produce itself. Right? Tea produce and being sold as agricultural produce itself. The tea bushes, rubber trees, coconut palms. Right? Bearer plant can be sold after producing the agricultural produce, the main product. So they can sell themselves. The plant can be sold. Right? What are the examples? Examples are tea bushes, rubber trees. After you harvest rubber, you can sell rubber itself for goods. Like coconut palms. Right? These are coming under biological. Coming under bearer plant. Okay, fill your blanks. Fill the blanks in the material. Okay, recognition criteria. Right? When you recognizing a biological asset, right, you have to consider three criteria. One is the control, whether you are having the control over the asset. Then whether there are probable future benefits and whether the value is reliably measurable. The entity controls the asset as result of past events, legal ownership of the herd or possession of the crop. So there is something, let's say there is a under control, right? Under control, I'm telling you, right? For example, let's say there is a herd of cows, right? Herd of cows run by a company. 50% owned by this company and another 50% owned by the other company. 50% owned by this company and 50% owned by the other company. Another company, right? So then there are two owners of the herd. There are two owners of the herd. So then are you going to identify the entire as biological or half of it? What do you think? What do you think? Can you identify the entire value of the herd? Let's say cow yeah, control. Herd එකක් ඉන්නවා. හරක් 10 දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. Right, cows ලා 10 දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. Right, 50-50. You own 50% of that firm and that dairy farm, and another company owns 50%. You have control, but not the full control. So then you should understand in your books, in your financial statement, in the company books, you need to identify only 50% of the agricultural asset. Right? Then probable future benefit. It is probable that future economic benefits associated with asset will flow to the entity. Benefits should be there. Future benefit, probable future benefit is there. Normally, these are the three criteria in identifying assets, right? Isn't it? There is no new thing. Control එක තියෙන්න ඕනේ. Benefits අතුලට එන්න ඕනේ. Reliability measure කරන්න ඕනේ. මේක මොකක්ද criteria? These are the general criteria in identifying asset. Under accounting framework. You can asset criteria. You have to consider these three criteria under accounting framework. Control, probable future benefit, and reliable measurement. Right? Finish. Measure. And entity recognizes like biological asset or agricultural produce only when all three conditions or conditions meet. Measurement of fair value, right? Measurement of fair value. Before that, we will go to the case study. Right? We will go to the case study. We have already discussed what agricultural. We have discussed these concepts: agricultural produce, harvest, bear a plant, right? Likewise, right? I will tell you more things. Write down a topic, different items coming under LKS 41. When it comes to the biological assets, write down. When it comes to biological assets, these are two types. These are two types. Consumable assets. Consumable assets. Consumable assets. And bearer assets. Consumable assets and bearer assets. Consumable assets and bearer assets. each type of these assets, each types of these assets are divided into as animals and plants. And animals and plants. So biological asset consumable assets, they are assets. Consumable assets consumable assets are the assets that are only consumable. Consumable assets are the biological assets. Consumable assets are the biological assets that are fully consumable. Fully consumable. But component में अधिक तरफ consume करना. देखा देखा plant and animals. Another example. Salmons. Salmon animals. Fully consumed. ये वाले plant का क्या? क्या? Srilanka. Carrot is beetroot for garden. Where assets these bare assets are the biological assets that cannot consumable in full. Bare assets are the assets. Bare assets are the biological assets that cannot consume. But produce harvest. So make it on the line, make it now what make it not yet. Animal, plant. Animals. One of the Indian example. They are animal. They are animal. House. House is one. It's like a pattern. House is one house. Plant examples. And travelers. And travelers. House that's here. Only consumable house are purpose. Right? Only purpose is that house. Main purpose is that farming. It was කවුද සාමාන්‍යයෙන් මම හිතනවාද dairy farm එක කවුද හදන්නේ? එළදෙන්න හදන්නේ නෙමෙයි මස් වලට. මස් වලට හදනවා පස්සේ මොකක්ද කියලා. ඒගොල්ලන් කරන්නේ ඉන්ජෙක්ෂන් කරලා මස්සේ හදන්නේ කවුද? ඒවල මිනිස්සු ප්‍රොඩියුස් එක නෙමෙයි මිල්ක් ප්‍රොඩියුස් එක. බ්‍රෑන්ඩඩ් හදන්නේ. යාති. ඒ පුළවල සතුන් ගලලා ඒගොල්ලෝ මේන් ફોකස් එක මොකක්ද? ප්‍රොඩියුසින් මේක. ඒක වෙනම කඩේට ගන්න මොකද? but main intention is to balance main intention is to produce more. So then which type of biological assets here? This will be considered as biological asset. This also will be considered as biological asset. This will be also considered as biological asset. Plant, mango, rubber, those will be considered as assets. Yes. You say that? From the beginning, see that. Only mango will be considered as primary house as a value. Mango plant, mango fruit. Here mango tree, right? Mango tree. Here mango tree. Here rubber tree. ඒක තමයි අපි මෙතන ස්කෝප් එකේ කතා කළේ මේ. LKS 41 does not cover agriculture produce පොත නැති මේ තියෙන්නේ bearer plants අර තියෙන්නේ bearer plants. හරි? Like I drew a chart in the whiteboard, right? I think physical students have copied that chart. Online students, please share them, right? This chart also. Physical students, please share them. And there is no way of sharing it. You take a picture and of your note that you have taken, that chart you need to share with them also. Right. Okay. With that, we will be moving to the case study example. Right, case study examples. Case study 1. So I'm not going to cover all the case studies in this standard, but anyway, I will consider the important case studies. Right. Case study 1, scope and classification. Nuwara Silver Leaf Estate, PLC operates a tea estate in the Central Highlands. At its financial year of 31st March 2026, the estate holds the following: A, B, C, D, E, F. 5,200 mature tea bushes planted over the last 40 years, expected to keep producing pluckable leaves for at least another 20 years. Standing green leaf still growing on the bushes, not yet plucked, estimated 12,500. 8,400 kg of made tea, processed, graded and packed, held in the estate warehouse awaiting auction. 45 hectares of estate land on which the tea bushes are planted. A small herd of 60 dairy cattle kept to supply the estate workers' welfare center. And a tea processing factory building on the estate. Identify them. Number one, classify each of item A to F above and state which Sri Lankan accounting standard governs the accounting. Yeah. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Agriculture में produce है ना काम ईटा में तो देना agriculture produce क्या है ये जानने का है मतलब मैं ऊपर के मैं agriculture produce Number one, the mature tea bushes planted over last 40 years expected to keep producing pluckable leaf for at least another 20 years. They are a plant. They are a plant NPA 60. They are a plant NPA 60. Standing green leaf growing on the bushes, not yet plucked. Estimated at 12,000. Estimated at 12,500 kilograms. Standing green leaf, still growing on the bushes, not yet plucked. Estimated 12,500. Then second one, make 8,400 kg of baked tea, processed, graded, and packaged, held in the assets warehouse awaiting a auction. Invented case 45 hectares of estate land on which the tea bushes are planted. Tea bushes are planted. Yes. PPE. Like PP. A small herd of 60 dairy cattle kept to supply the estate workers welfare center. Welfare center. What is that? Biological asset or any other idea? Yes, biological asset. Biological asset. Then second, final one, factory building. It is LKS 16. LKS 16. So only B and E. B and E. B for ball and E are the biological assets running under LKS 41. Explain why the tea bushes are accounted for differently from the green leaf growing on them, even though both are living plant material and at the reporting. Why it is tea bushes are write down as per the LKS 41. Tea bushes are bearer plants. As per the LKS 41, tea bushes are considered as bearer plants, which are out of the scope of LKS 41. Which are out of the scope of LKS 41. Final one. Tell me an answer for the final one. During the year, the estate uprooted 2 hectares of aging tea bushes and incurred cost to establish new bearer plants in their place. How should this replanting cost be treated? How this can be replanted? How can it is tell me the standard that you are going to consider under this? Under which standard you are going to consider this? Yes, LK 41 or 16. 16, then can we identify, can we capitalize this? PPG. Can we capitalize the PPG? No, why you can't capitalize? You can't capitalize the cost to the asset until it comes to the level where you can get its expected benefits. Right? Expected benefits. Benefits gonna then you have to consider this as self-building asset. Write down self-constructed asset. LK 16 is applied. LK is 16 is applicable. LKA is 16 is applicable. For bearer plants. It should be capitalized. It should be capitalized to the PPE. The PPE as self-constructed asset. मुलींना capitalize करना. Self-constructed asset. In what time you start depreciation? Capitalize कराना depreciation start कराना. Where the reason the asset has not reached to the level where you can use it, right? As soon as this T grows and converted to the pluggable status, so then this phase will be treated as depreciable assets, right? Leander. But these assets cannot be depreciated. But these assets cannot be depreciated. Until it begin, BEGIN, until it begin bearing pluggable tea leaves. Pluggable tea leaves. Pluggable කියන්නේ නෙලන්න කඩන්න පුළුවන්, දලු කඩන්න පුළුවන්. පොළවේ පිහි කරන ගන්න නේද depreciate කරනවා. Pluggable tea leaves. Right. Okay. Measurement, fair value model. Now we are going to measure biological assets. Again, fair value comes when we measure in the biological assets. Biological assets should be measured at fair value. Biological assets can be measured at fair value. Biological assets are measured at initial recognition and at each reporting date at a fair value less cost to sell. They are going to measuring calculation. The value of biological assets equal fair value of the biological asset minus cost to sell. Value of the biological asset equal fair value of the biological asset. Fair value of the biological asset fair value of the biological asset minus cost to sell. Cost to sell. Equal to correct. මෙතන මෙත කැලේ කියවන කලින් read go to the cost to sell. Read this please louder. Read this louder. Louder. Louder means louder. Right. Incremental cost directly attributable to the disposal of the asset. Right? Of an asset, excluding finance cost and income tax. Underline the two words. Finance cost and income taxes. Is there any interest involved, in late charges involved, financial cost, or income taxes? It will not be included. Example dila dina. Commission to brokers, levies by regulatory agencies and commodity exchanges, transfer taxes and duties. Income taxes you can't include. Right. Now, when it comes to biological assets, how to measure? Fair value less cost to sell, both on initial recognition and at every subsequent reporting date until harvest or disposal. ඉස්සෙල්ලාම initial recognition පළවෙනියට record කරද්දී කොහොමද කරන්නේ? Fair value minus cost to sell. So then again, subsequent reporting dates, you have to get the fair value and the cost to sell. If there are any gain or loss, need to be charged to the P&L. Need to be charged to the P&L. For example, let's assume at the initial recognition, right? At the initial recognition, the value of grapes hanging in wines, grape wines, is measured as 500,000 rupees. 500,000 rupees. මිදිවැලක තියෙන ගෙඩිවල අපි මිදිවැලේ අඳුනාගද්දී biological asset එකක් විදිහට මුලින්ම මිදිවැලේ price එක තියෙන මිදිවැලේ තියෙන මිදිවල වටිනාකම 50 ලක්ෂ 5යි කියලා assume කරමු. So then we consider 500,000 as biological assets under non-current assets. Non-current assets in the statement of financial position. So at the end of the year, when we are valuing that, the fair value of that grapes hanging in the vines is 520,000. 520,000. Assume that is the value you have taken, fair value minus cost to sell. Right? Take a value of 520,000 at the end. So that means subsequent reporting, subsequent measurement. So what is the difference? අවුරුද්දේ මුල ලක්ෂ 5යි වෙන්න පුළුවන් මොකද අවුරුද්දත් එක මොකද වෙන්නේ අවුරුද්ද කාලයක් නෑ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් රේට් වලට but let's assume right then after 1 year what has happened මේවා more or less that the value has increased up to what? 520,000. What is the double name? 20,000 debit, 20,000 debit to where? 20,000 debit to the asset, right? Biological asset. Then 20,000 credit to the P&L. 20,000 credit to the P&L asset. Right? So agricultural produce something. Now those after 1 year of time, this let's say after another 3 months, these grapes have harvested. By that time, right? By that time, fair value is now it has become 530,000. 530,000. Right? So that means we'll do some examples until I'm explaining you 530,000. Those are ripe. Now they can produce, they can harvest, they can be harvested. Now, as soon as they harvest the grapes, those are considered as agricultural produce, right? Harvested items, agricultural produce. Only at the time of harvesting will be considered as biological asset. Then do the valuation. It is 530,000 rupees, right? 530,000 rupees. Let's say there is a cost to sell to 5,000. So then the value of that will be 525,000. Immediate value is 520,000 as biological. But now is it no longer will consider under LTS 41? Our stock stock value stock we don't do valuation again. That our biological asset value will be deemed as the cost, the value of the stock. Right? Biological value that will be deemed as the biological stock. I will draw this in the board, right? I will draw this in the book. Right? There is a in the accounting period. In the accounting period, this is 1st January 2026. Initial revenue. Initial revenue. So at the end of the year, 31st December 2026. In the reporting date. Reporting date, subsequent measure. Subsequent measure. After 3 months. 3 months get 31st March 2027. This is the time. Within the year, let's assume it is 510,000 fair value minus cost to sell 10,000. Cost to sell 10,000. The real value is 500,000. Initial like you are identifying this as biological asset. Right? You are making asset. Subsequent method at the end of the day, you using the same value is same. So now it is right. Like that, now it is harvestable. So then the value is 520,000. Fair value. Cost to sell is let's say 10,000. Now what is the value? 510,000. And drawing it in the code, right? Online participants, please take a loan from your friends. 510,000. What is the difference? At this point, there is an addition. Make a value like that. So then 510 minus 500. What is the value? It is 10,000 gain. How to record this? How to record this? Biological asset. Rates. Debit 10,000. So where we come with the enter, Laksa Pahal. Then Pahal. 10 වෙන මේක හරි. ඉතුරු ටික මොකද වෙන්නේ? 10 යනවා. ready? PM. Clear? Right. After 3 months, this grape have harvested. Maybe can be, right? The value of harvested grapes is fair value is 535,000. 535,000. Right? Cost to sell is 5,000. What is the value of the harvested? The media value 535,000 minus 5,000. It is 530,000. Make a value. Is that the money stand? Okay, is 40. 100. Because we measure it based on fair value minus cost to sell, which as per the guidelines of the LPA 40. But no longer this is considered as biological. This will be converted to LPA 2. Stock can make a stock cap. So that will be considered as LPA. LPA 2 value. Stock के form में अभी value पे form तो our fair value calculation based on LPA 41 will be the deemed cost. Deemed cost of the stock. So stock will be recorded at 530,000. 530,000. මෙතන වැඩි කරන්න ඕනේ. මෙතන asset එක වැඩි කරලා මෙතන මේ ආය වැඩි කරන්න. model of x ආය වැඩි කරන්න. Here. Right. With that, we will go for the case study. Can you read this? Where was the dairy farm LP Limited keeps 300 dairy cows on leased land under 30 years lease. 30-year lease. The farm entered into an arrangement with the nearby dairy cooperative under which 40 cows born on the farm during the year are, by written agreement, jointly owned. The cooperative hold 50% instead of each of these cows and may reclaim that interest at any time. Raw milk is extracted from the herd twice daily and sold to a milk processing company the same day. Milk processing company the same day. Question. Applying the three recognition criteria at case 41, discuss whether the 300 cows. Aling 300 cows. 300 maybe here. Taking anything की पढ़ना बेटा अतलिया के पढ़ना ये अतलिया बाग या था ये कंपनी नहीं थी बाग या तावा के मगर आई 300 cows excluding 40 jointly owned cows and should be recognized as biological asset in we will what the financial state. We will what the financial state. But again, How about 300,000 dairy cows? That is dairy cows. Dairy cows here. Dairy cows. Now, biological. 300 cows will be considered as biological asset. How about 30 jointly owned cows? Those are also biological assets. Biological assets. Both of them are biological assets. Second one, discuss whether 40 jointly owned cows should be recognized in full, in part, or not at all in Valvatha's financial statement and explain the reason. By the reason. Considering these 40 cows, considering these 40 cows, COLVES cows. Under recognition criteria, under recognition criteria, under recognition criteria, %50 control owned by 50% control owned by 50% control owned by another cooperative. Another cooperative. Therefore, 50% of the value of therefore 50% of the value of therefore 50% of the value of 40 newly born calves. 40 newly born calves should be recognized under biological assets. Final one, sixth question. Sixth question. Yes. At what point should the raw milk be recognized in waiver financial statement and what way? Last one, at what point is you can be Value should be recognized at the time they harvested. Value should be recognized at the time they harvested. Value should be recognized at the time they harvested. Value should be recognized at the day, at the time they harvested. Mohammed, calculate at fair value of the fair value of the meat minus selling cost. Fair value of the meat minus selling cost. That will be the deemed cost. That will be deemed cost. D-double-E-M. Deemed. That will be the deemed cost. Of the dairy stock. Of the dairy stock. Transfer to the feeding processing company. Transfer to the feeding processing. Right, case study 3, fair value measurement. Right, fair value measurement. Are you liver? Right, read the case study 3. These are the questions you are getting. Exactly. RPTA acquisitions limited farms tighter products in postal bonds for export. To the other prawns. Tiger prawns can tiger can 40. 40 is available. I don't know how tiger prawn can get so. At 31st December 2025, the following information is available. Dine kawanta 31st December 2025. Estimated live prawn biomass in the ponds 45,000 kg. Pond එකේ ඉන්නවා ISO වරදියා 45,000 kg. Quoted export price of the prawns of this size and weight on 31st December 2025. Same date is 1,850 per kg. Estimated cost to sell harvesting labor 45 per kg, transport to the processing plant 30 per kg, export levy 25 per kg. Now tell me, are we going to consider all these three as selling cost? By export levy is not considered. We are only not considering income tax. For example, selling cost example right? Levy should be considered. Only income tax will be excluded. This is the firm's first year of operation. So the opening balance of the biological asset is nil. Right? Opening balance of the biological asset is nil. Calculate the fair value less cost to sell of the prawn biomass 31st showing sugar. Calculate that. මේක so you know it's so so they are biological asset. කොහොමද අපරාගත්තේ? ඒතර කීයද ඉන්නේ 1850යි. 1850න් අඩු කරන්න ඕනේ 45යි 30යි 25. කීයද වැඩි වෙන්නේ? නේද? කීයද දෙන්නේ? Yes, Levis අඩු කරා. නැත්නම් Levis අඩු කරා. ඉන්ටර්නෙට් කරේ. ස්මාර්ට් අඩු කරා. දෙන්න දෙන්නේ. And එකක මිල කීයද? කිලෝ එකක 17 1750. Itu single. The total selling cost is 100 rupees. Then 1,850 minus 100. The fair value of 1 kilo of prawns is 1,750. 1,750. Right. So then you have to record it. 1,750 into 45,000. Here there is 7.8 million. Here the medical lagan bala. $78 million. 0.7. 78 million 0.75. Like 78 million 0.7. The previous value එක nil බිඳුවයි. එහෙනම් සම්පූර්ණයෙන් බඳුන ගන්නවා P&L එක. Total value can be charged to P&L. Right. Okay. So then biological asset that bonds. Biological asset bonds can maybe 78.75, 78 million. 78.75 million. Fair value gain credit P&L. Fair value gain credit P&L. The same. කලින් උදාහරණයක් දාලා තියෙනවා 0 දිගට. සම්පූර්ණ කම්පැනි P&L. කලින් value එක nil තිබ්බයි. හරි. කලින් value එක nil තිබ්බයි. Right. Now third question. On 31st March 2026, half of the biomass 22,500 harvested. Harvested and sold at 1,900 rupees. Now, I will give you the break, right? Okay, anyway. Maybe 11.50. Okay, anyway, don't worry. We'll do this, discuss this one. I was in the explanation, I forgot the marks time. So anyway, we will complete this and we'll go for the break. I will give the 30 minutes break. 30 minutes is enough. 30 minutes break to have the lunch. Okay. On 31st March 2026, half of the biomass, 22,500 kgs harvested and sold at rupees 1,900 per kg, with actual cost to sell rupees 95 per kg. Right. Now, half of the biomass now they are going to sell. First of all, separate the entire value from the stock. Separate the entire value from the stock. How can you separate? Half the cutting value again, half. Right? ඊට පස්සේ මොකද කරන්න කියලා බලන්න. Then 22,000, I will use this calculation in the book. 22,500 kilos are there. You do the calculation and take the value. So now half of the stock previously we valued it as 70.78 million point 75. So then the value of the cost of the stock will be 78.75 divided by what is the value? 39.375. 39.375 million. We can evaluate. Now calculate the subsequent measure. At the time they harvest. So it is 39.375. 39.375. So then, now this is a subsequent measurement. At the time we harvest, again you have to revalue. What is the value now? The fair value is 109,900. With actual cost of sale is 95 per kg. Then I know that in harvest කරාට පස්සේ මේක ස්ටොක් එකේ 1900යි minus cost to sell 95. 95, right? 95. Now the value is how much? 100 කියොත් 800යි. Now the value is 1,805 per kilo. Per kilo. Now what is the fair value? 1,805, which is the fair value per kilo multiplied by 22,500 kilos. What is the value? 40. 40. 40 million 600 605. Silakan get 640. 12. 5. 0. Ini ilangan mereka. 40 million. 0.6125. 40 million 0.6125. Right? So then it is 40 million 0.612. This is the of the stock. Now this will become the deemed stock. Deemed cost. Deemed cost of the stock. Deemed cost of the stock. $40.6125. දැන් ඒ වගේම මොකද මේ භාගයක් මෙකුණට ඉතුරු භාගයක් වගේ විසොනේ. It is there in the business. Right? එයාලගේ වැඩ මොකක්ද කියන වෙන්නේ නැහැ. මේ ගානේ කටේ. එහෙනම් මේ වෙනස මොකක්ද? මේ වෙනස ආයෙ වැඩි වෙනකොට බාහිර රෙසෙට් වලට මේ දෙකේ වෙනස කිව්වේ. The value of remaining stock is remaining stock. The value of remaining stock. When is it? 1.2375. In the case, 1.2375 is the difference. This will be debited to biological assets, credited to PN. Debited to biological asset and credited to PN.